Coming up, we have an exclusive interview with one of Loyola's previous sports information directors, Bill Behrns, as well as an in-depth analysis of how the Loyola men's basketball team stands against their newfound competition. I'm Oliver Allen.
And I'm Omari Salisbury.
Rambler Sports Locker begins now. Welcome back to another episode of Rambler Sports Locker. The men's cross-country team is off to a red-hot start following a first-place finish out of 35 total teams at the Bradley Pink Classic, headlined by a special performance from one of the team's freshmen. Also, the much-anticipated Loyola basketball season is almost upon us, and we have an overview of the preseason standings coming right up.
The Loyola men's cross-country team placed first in its last 3 meets, helping the team achieve historic program ranking. Headlined by some new faces, here's Vanesa Hoxha with the new blurs on the block about the breakout freshman.
It has been yet another sports-filled week here at Loyola. In only the second meet of his collegiate career, the rookie from the land down under, otherwise known as Australia, lands himself on the list of overachievers. What's going on, everyone? I'm Vanesa Hoxha, and thank you so much for joining me in this week's segment of New Blurs on the Block. Let's get right into it. Freshman Jason Clayton was named as this week's Men's Rookie of the Week by the Atlantic 10 Conference. The Melbourne, Australia native was the 4th Rambler amongst his pack to finish the 8K race at the Bradley Pink Classic in Peoria, Illinois. Just shy of the top 25, Clayton finished in 26th place, where he now holds his personal best of 24 minutes and 3 seconds. Loyola is now number 5 in the latest United States Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association Midwest Region Poll, marking the highest regional ranking in program history. Congratulations to the rookie. We are all looking forward to see Clayton continue to achieve success as a fellow Rambler. Make sure to tune in next time for another segment of New Blurs on the Block, where I highlight another rookie Rambler. For the Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Vanesa Hoxha.
Thank you, Vanessa. I'm looking forward to seeing the team compete in the Atlantic 10 Conference Championship on October 29th. Up next, with injuries being a pressing topic in the sports world, our reporters got together and gave their thoughts on where organizations should draw the line regarding their players' safety. Up next is The Ramble.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to The Ramble. I'm your host, Lucas Kihmm, here with William Bazzone, Omari Salisbury, Trent Jackson, and a very special guest, our executive producer, Gabbi of the Lumma family. Hello. We've got another intriguing segment today with this week's buzzing question that's got everyone talking, particularly in the health and sports world. What's the limit for injuries in sports? How far should athletes be pushed to continue playing? Now, this has always been a question that's come to mind for athletes and health professionals, but it's become the #1 issue in the NFL today, with several players going down because of a traumatic injury. We've seen Commanders quarterback Carson Wentz play despite breaking his fingers. LeBron James played with a face protector. But probably the most notable injury, Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, playing with a head and neck injury that resulted in a concussion and a trip to the hospital. So if athletes continue to hurt themselves in such a bad way, when's it time to call quits? Well, what's your take on this situation?
Well, look, I think for the NFL specifically, throughout a 17-week season, by the end of it, there's really only 4 or 5 guys at most that might not be playing with some kind of ailment. So I think it's just up to the coaching staff in determining whether, they are able to play or not. And also, you need to talk to the medical team as well. I think another really just big example for me, being a Browns fan and all, I think of Baker Mayfield last year, and I think that's the reason why he just didn't make it out of Cleveland alive. He was the savior of Cleveland football 12 months ago, and then now, he's hurt again in Carolina. So, he tore his labrum, from people who don't know, and, that really messed up his throwing mechanics. And then, he had a knee injury that came up. He re-aggravated his shoulder, and then by the end of it, he was a dead man walking. So the fact that really no coaches or any medical team members could tell him, hey, you've kind of reached your limit, it's time for you to sit out the rest of the season, when, everybody was calling for him to just sit out. It's hard, and especially when the Browns were 8-9 and they lost 6 games by 1 score or less. You really would have wondered what would have happened if you had a healthy quarterback in the pocket, really leading you guys to win a game.
That's a really good point. Trent, what do you have to say about this?
I believe it comes down to the medical professionals on the staffs of these teams. Because as an athlete, especially as a professional athlete, your livelihood is to go out there and play and earn your money. So they're not going to want to sit out of games. They're not going to want to take breaks, even if they're feeling hurt or they're injured. They're going to want to continue to play. And that's why you hire like trainers, all these medical professionals, is to let your coaching staff and players know that when it's their time to go on the field and they can play through something, or it's time to sit back and let somebody else go in the game because you can't go.
I gotta be honest with you guys. I don't really agree with you when you say you gotta leave it up to the medical professionals. I feel like an athlete should know their bodies well enough to know what they can and choose what they play through. And like those moments we were talking about earlier, like Carson Wentz playing with a broken fingers, you know, like these guys love these sports. They get paid to play these sports and they want to leave it all out on the field. So if they feel like they can go out there and play, I feel like they should be allowed to play. Now, touching on the Tua situation, if you got a concussion, that's a little bit crazy. So outside of any serious ailments like that, I feel like there should be something left up to the players to decide how far they want to push themselves. Because at the end of the day, this is their passion.
So I just want to go back to the Tua thing. I think that he just wasn't under the correct supervision. I think that the medical professionals, that's like their fault there, and I also think that he could have, advocated for himself just a little bit more, kind of going back to what you guys were saying about, athletes being more on top of, like their health and advocating for that. I think that's like a really big part of it. And just another example, Jordan Poyer, he had a rib injury and he drove 15 hours from Buffalo to Kansas City last week to play against the Chiefs. And I just think that's just going like a little too far, like you can sit out one game and it's going to be okay. And I understand that this is your job and, you want to be there for your team and you want to help. But I think that putting your health first in the end is just going to be the best situation for everyone.
Now, should sports organizations make new rules about injuries? Like, should they change something? What should happen?
I mean, I feel like outside of enforcing concussion protocol, I feel like any injury should be left up to the individual person and let them decide what they want to do and how far they're willing to go. Because you got a lot of iconic moments in sports history where players chose to go back out there and finish their job. You got to think about Clay when he tore his ACL. He still went out there and took those free throw shots. Same with Kobe. Russ played just this last week. Played terrible, but he played with a slight shoulder injury because he has a commitment to this team and to the Broncos as an organization to go out there and play. So I feel like that's something about the sports and these players that they truly trying to show on the field.
Well, I think another point that really should be brought up, to be honest, is just there's just so much that goes into being an athlete. There's like such a masculinity aspect to this game. It's like, well, I don't want to miss a game, or I have a little hamstring injury or a groin injury, or my shoulder's a little busted up. I don't want to like sit out. So I think at the end of the day, going off of what Gabby was saying, I think look, if your body is not physically able to go, don't like put yourself in more harm by playing an extra game, because at the end of the day, that's just going to impact your performance in games down the road. Because if you have one little nagging little hamstring injury, it's just going to keep building up and building up and building up, and then now week 12 or week 13, when it's like playoff hunt time, and you all of a sudden go down with a hamstring injury, it's like, oh no, right? Or even people playing fantasy, people who are betting, for God's sakes, it's like those key injuries can really change the outcomes of these matchups that were once seen as, very favorable for one team.
Especially in like the world today with like social media and everything, I feel like things have changed now from the past.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, William. I think that it's not only important for the athletes to stay healthy like throughout the season, and I understand that these sports, football is such a physical sport, and no doubt you're going to have injuries and you're going to have nagging situations week to week. But I think that in these like beginning weeks of the season, like you really need to put your health first if you want to get to that next step in the playoffs and you want to be there for your team.
Absolutely.
And, help them reach a playoff game or a wild card game or even the Super Bowl. You want to reach that next step, so you want to be healthy enough and be there for your team. So I do think that these organizations need to take those extra steps, at least in the regular season. I'm not super sure if there should be different rules for the regular season and the playoffs, but they need to think of that. Like, they want all their players as healthy as they can be for those postseason games.
You got to think about it, though. For your like Jordan Poyer example, it's like that game is something personal for them. That's probably one of their biggest games of the season for them, and that's something like they want revenge. That's why he probably chose to drive 15 hours for that game, because he really wanted to get back at them. Mm-hmm. So it's more personal to that, and it's a player's choice to like choose who they really want to compete against.
For sure. We're definitely going to be keeping an eye out for these players and their health. With new information that Tua may return to play soon gives hope to those who don't want to end their career because of an injury. That's it for The Ramble. Let's send it back to the executive producer, Gabby Lumma, with an exclusive feature on one of Loyola's sports information directors, Bill Behrns.
Today, I sat down with Bill Behrns, the Associate Athletic Director of Communications here at Loyola. Today is his last day at Loyola, and we just asked him to reflect on his time here and also tell us about his plans moving forward.
I really enjoyed the aspect of being able to tell coaches' stories, to being able to tell the stories of the student athletes just kind of in a different fashion. And no 2 days are the same, which is always great. It beats a 9-to-5 job where you're kind of doing the same thing every day. I'm going to go be the Director of Communications and Marketing at Notre Dame College Prep, which is where I went to high school. It's in Niles, which is basically just kind of the northwest side of the city here. The thing that was the coolest was probably during that Final Four run, it wasn't the games themselves. I'll never forget, and I think it was before the Kansas State game, before the Elite Eight game, we were staying at the Marriott in Atlanta, and they had an alumni reception in the hotel before the team left for the game. I went down there, and it was basically like going to a gigantic college reunion. And it was so cool to see people from my first year in 1999 to people that had graduated just a year before, and everybody just so excited about Loyola, everybody in their scarves, everybody in their maroon and gold. That was really cool to see, and see that pride, to see people have pride in where they went to school again, which wasn't necessarily the case when I started here. That was really cool to see. It's a very unique place. I've worked at a bunch of different universities, and other than where I went to school, I haven't had the feeling of being around people that are this welcoming, this friendly, and just have that kind of family atmosphere. It's really gratifying and neat to see how people grow during their time when they arrive on campus and to where they're at when they graduate. It's pretty impressive, not just even from like a media side of things, of some people come in and they're shy and they don't like to do interviews, and then by the time they're a senior, they're kind of your go-to person for interviews and things like that. But just to see how they grow and handle all the adversity and everything else that they've had to deal with in those 4 or 5 years, however long they're here, is pretty cool, and I definitely think that's something that I'll miss for sure. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's certainly a place that I've loved for 22 years. I will still be following the Ramblers. That's not going to change. And keep winning and chasing championships. That's the biggest thing. And keep being great students and great representatives of the university.
As a student in sports media here at Loyola Chicago, I'd just like to give a big thank you to Bill for everything that you've done here. Congratulations on such an amazing career in college athletics. You've touched so many people, not even in the athletics world, outside, all of us in student media here at Loyola. I'm just immensely grateful for everything that you've done and helped us to do, whether that gets us access to games, interviews with athletes or coaches, anyone in the athletics department. You make it all happen, so we just like to say thank you so much, and good luck on all of your future ventures, Bill. For the Rambler Sports Locker, I'm executive producer Gabbi Lumma.
Thanks, Gabby. We wish Bill the best in his new ventures at his alma mater. With basketball season swiftly approaching, here's William Bazzone with the story on Loyola men's basketball preseason standings.
This is not a drill, everyone. Men's basketball season is right around the corner. Last Thursday, October 13th, the Atlantic 10 preseason polls were released at the conference's media day in Brooklyn, New York City. Coaches from each team and selected media voted the Ramblers to stand at 4th in the conference behind Virginia Commonwealth University, St. Louis University, and the University of Dayton. In addition, senior guard Braden Norris was named to the conference's preseason 3rd team. Norris is coming off a campaign averaging 10.4 points per game. He is also the nation's active leader in 3-point field goal percentage at 44.2%, according to Loyola's athletic website. After 9 years in the Missouri Valley Conference, the Ramblers are looking to make noise in the A-10 and clinch their 3rd straight appearance in the NCAA tournament. Home matchups against Virginia Commonwealth on January 10th and St. Louis on January 18th are very important for the final standings. Picking up these key wins will help the Ramblers during the conference tournament in March. But the most anticipated home game against Dayton on February 17th sold out in 15 minutes. Insane. The Rambler season begins in Gentile Arena on October 30th in their exhibition game against Calumet College, and we wish the team the best of luck. Ramblers country, let's ride. For Rambler Sports Locker, I'm William Bazzone.
Thanks, Will. To wrap things up, here's a quick recap and preview of some Loyola sports matches. The Loyola women's volleyball team is off to the best start in the program's history and riding a 9-game winning streak. After 3-0 and 3-1 victories on the road versus Duquesne, the team went on to pick up its 8th and 9th straight wins with 3-0 and 3-1 victories over George Mason at home. The Ramblers look to continue this historic season as they travel to Kingston, Rhode Island to face the Rhode Island Rams October 21st.
In Loyola's women's cross-country news, the team finished 7th in the most recent Bradley Pink Classic on October 14th. The team was led by sophomore Nora Wallen, who took over a minute off of her previous top 6K time to finish in 12th place. Behind her in the top 50 were graduate students Kathleen Sims in 13th place and Claire Hazenbaugh at 15th. The Ramblers have a big meet ahead of them as they play in the A10 Conference Championship in Mechanicsville, Virginia at 9 a.m. on October 29th.
The Loyola men's soccer team tied 1-1 against Cleveland State University this past Wednesday. The team will close out the regular season with 2 conference matches against Rhode Island on October 22nd at the Loyola Field at 3 p.m. and October 29th against Fordham and Brooklyn, New York at 12 p.m., with the Atlantic 10 Championship starting November 5th. That's a wrap on this episode of the Rambler Sports Locker.
To stay up to date on all things Rambler Sports Locker, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Loyola RSL and subscribe to our YouTube channel. From all of us here at Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Omari Salisbury.
And I'm Oliver Allen.
And don't forget to turn out the lights.